Let's take a look at some charts on Ripple for the latest article on Brave New Coin. So if we compare Ripple's market cap to all of the others, Ripple is technically third or fourth based on circulating supply. I'll talk more about that in a minute. But what that means is the number of coins that are freely available, excluding Ripple's share in the programmatic escrow, times the current price is how I get the market cap, and that's where we're at. Basically the valuation of Tether. Now this has fluctuated greatly, as many coins have, kind of irregardless of the persistent selling of Ripple or adding to the circulating supply. If we look at the selling that Ripple's doing, this is from their quarterly report, Q1 2020, the most recent available. You can see they have sales to OTC parties, over the counter, institutional, way down from Q4 2019. Programmatic sales, they've adjusted and sort of stopped after it was found that it was double what it should have been for probably 4 quarters, so probably a year or more. It was way up from where it should have been. And you can see the selling on Pulling-X. At least I think that's where some of it was selling. These volumes are a bit interesting because depending on which exchanges you pick, this will vary drastically. So they're saying here that we're not selling very much compared to the total volume. It's interesting. I think they used Crypto Compare, which is another crypto data website, their information as far as volume on exchanges. But what they're trying to tell you here is the price isn't down because we're selling. That's what they're trying to tell you. If we look at the total circulating supply again of Ripple, it's technically 100 billion, but 49% of that is in an escrow that slowly drips sells. 6.1% of that is Ripple's holdings, which they've basically stopped selling or reduced drastically. Ripple's also teasing an IPO. I think the window has sailed on that for them because of the legal trouble they're in, deciding whether or not Ripple's a security in US courts. So I don't know if we see a Ripple IPO in my lifetime anyway. If you look at the network itself, the total nodes, most of them have the latest software. This is always good to check because some networks like to reduce or introduce mini code updates frequently, and that's great. But if the nodes aren't on board, if most of the nodes are in 1.3 and we're on 1.5, those updates don't mean anything, right? And you can see this on any network, LTC, Bitcoin. If the nodes don't adopt the software, then it's not really an upgrade or update. So it's good to see this. And it usually takes some time. When they first release the update, if the nodes are organic and not all controlled by one entity, it'll take some time for these to roll over into the newest software. Something like Ethereum that uses cloud hosting, those nodes most of them, just instantly adopt the new hardware because it's all done by one entity. So it's another good sanity check. Is the network decentralized? Are we having trouble upgrading? Is it slow to roll over? And the other part of that is, do the people behind the nodes agree with the changes? If we look at transaction per day in red here, the line, and median transaction fees in the fill, fees are basically at an all-time low. I mean, they're essentially zero, honestly, compared to every other chain on the planet. Transactions per day are down over the past few weeks. All of this nonsense was spam, so not real. And since 2016, Ripple's transactions per day haven't really done much. Yeah, they've coasted at the top half of the range, but nothing exciting. You're not seeing multi-week highs. You're not seeing anything that looks like there's any sort of on-chain activity here that's sustained beyond what's already been there for the past 4 years. If we look at active addresses in the line here and the average transaction size in the fill, average transaction size basically hasn't changed since 2019, just stayed constant. And active addresses have gone up with price, but they haven't really done anything on their own. And again, this is spam stuff, so it's not real, and you know that because it's a huge spike and instantly back down to the previous range. So overall, active addresses and mean transactions, average transactions, have just flatlined over the past year and a half, really. And that isn't bullish or bearish, it's just definitely not bullish, you know. It's not, there's no excitement here. There's no week over week increase in activity. If we look at NVT, NVT is probably the most bullish of any indicator that you're going to look at here because it's continued to decline since 2015. Currently sitting at near all-time lows, but it's still above 200, and if you compare that to any other network like Bitcoin or ETH, it's still high. You really can't compare NVTs between networks, but if you look at Ripple or Stellar, which is probably the closest analog to Ripple, Stellar's NVTs in like the 500s. So something's going on here. Most likely the escrow transactions that happen monthly greatly affect this in that it drops the NVT because it sort of inflates the on-chain volume. So if you were to adjust for that, this would probably be up much higher than it is now. If you look at Google Trends for Ripple protocol over the past 3 years, basically flatlined again, much like active addresses and on-chain activity. Is just another echoing metric of nothingness here. And over the past year, 2 years, it's essentially hit multi-month lows. You know, there's just no excitement here in the Ripple searches, and all of this just says the same thing. There's just no organic activity that's excited and sustained about Ripple, which is kind of reflected in the price. And if we look at technicals, we have the 50, the 200, the yearly pivots, VPVR, volume here, RSI, Bitfinex long-short ratio. I mean, the prices just continue to drip down. And whether it's holders of Ripple, long-time holders, whether it's Ripple, the company, whether it's Jed McCaleb, who's got 4 billion Ripple that he's selling. So he's got to sell it somewhere, right? His Stamp looks like the place. If you compare Stamp to any other exchange, Stamp's volume is much higher. And it's Stamp, and they're reputable, so I don't think this is fake volume. This looks very real to me. If I had to guess, this is where Jed is selling his Ripple. He's DCAing out of it. He's dollar cost averaging. He's just algoing out of it. How else are you going to get rid of 4 billion Ripple, right? You got to sell it on an exchange, just like anybody else. So that's certainly kept price down, for sure. Even with that, though, price does mirror the rest of the market. You know, I had this massive March 12th drop. Many coins have now broken above the March highs. Some of them are halfway between the highs and the lows, which is where Ripple is. And it's got a 5200 bull cross here, the first one since 2019, June, May, somewhere in there. So it's been a while since there's been an adequate upper thrust for Ripple here. It's above all of this VPVR congestion, and again, all of that is Jed McCaleb selling. So if you don't know who he is, he was an early creator or part of the creating team for Ripple, and he kind of forked off and created Stellar. So that's why he's got so much Ripple. So price is above the VPVR, so there's no like overlying resistance here. This is all smooth sailing as far as upside resistance based on volume. I'd like to see price at the yearly pivot, 35 cents, whatever that is. It's kind of a key level. But this should get some nice multi-week momentum after the bullish cross. You can see the previous one didn't really go anywhere, so that's certainly a possibility, but it's been how long since Ripple's been down? Long shorts, nothing too exciting, no divs on RSI. If we look at this pitchfork, this is what I mean, where it's just like this death channel of down, right? Pitchfork is a trend channel with specific rules, so you pick 3 points, you get your channel. Price will want to return to the median line as much as it can, so long as it remains inside the pitchfork. So you can see it's got outside the pitchfork here, still came back. It's getting outside the pitchfork here, probably the most it has in the most consecutive days. So it's definitely turning up. Again, this echoes the bullish golden cross here on the daily, but it's probably the best it's looked for a chance to end this trend channel in a long time, really since 2018. You know, it hasn't done much in the bullish department. Cloud also likes it. It's above the daily cloud. Daily cloud's bullish. Bullish TK cross. Lagging span is above price inside of cloud. And you got this Adam Eve situation that probably measures to this February March high, somewhere around 33 cents. That's really what I'd be watching over the next few weeks as this bullish trend materializes. And lastly, looking at XRPBTC. So although USD pair looks bullish, this looks incredibly bearish. I mean, it's just getting crushed since 2019. Really swift and then really slow. You could argue some sort of falling wedge here. There's no divs quite yet. There was a little mini div here on this multi-month low, but I would just expect it to test 15, 1K sat, something like that. Just looks like a magnet for where price wants to be. I really don't expect Ripple to outperform BTC here once BTC is above 10K, which it is now. So I wish the Ripple holders some luck. USD looks decent. On-chain metrics look blasé, nonplussed. And the BTC pair continues to look desparish.